Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Chiefs Outsiders podcast. This is a preview of Week 3 against the Colts. Now, it seems pretty obvious that you have a 2-0 Chiefs team and an 0-2, or are they 0-1-1?
They are 0-1-1.
Don't underestimate the tie in there.
It is technically better than a loss.
But when you get destroyed by the Jaguars, it doesn't leave a lot of confidence that you're going to beat Kansas City. But before we have a Chiefs party, let's talk a little bit about reasons for optimism or things to be concerned about with the Colts.
So, yeah, I think a lot of Chiefs fans will see that 24-0 beatdown is what it was by the Jaguars last week and think that this is a no contest for the Chiefs, who have looked good. And I don't think we should be there yet. The Colts are better than their record. I don't know how much better. They might not be very good, but they're not the worst team in the league, and they can absolutely, just like any other team, go out there and beat the Chiefs this weekend.
And we've seen a lot of teams, a lot of Kansas City teams and other teams around the league have a season where they win their hard games and then miss the playoffs because of that one Week 3 game against a non-playoff team. So the team can't look past the Colts. Now I can.
Right.
I'm not in the film room. I'm not working on the game plan. So I can overlook them a little bit, but hopefully we know what kind of organization this is. Nobody at Arrowhead is overlooking this team.
Exactly.
And talking about the Colts, at the end of last year, they were one of the hottest teams in the league. I mean, they steamrolled some teams. Was one impressive game was the Patriots. When the Patriots, at that time, weren't they the 1 seed?
I believe the winner of that game moved to the 1 seed, yeah.
And then the Colts just rolled. And then they kind of drifted at the end. But that's a coach and an organization that has shown it can win. But for some reason, they're just hopping between quarterbacks.
Yeah. And that's got to be... That's been the focal point for the Colts since Andrew Luck retired.
And he seems to think that Matt Ryan is going to be the best of the journeymen they've brought in. And all of these are guys who've had a pedigree. Mm-hmm. They brought in an older Phillip Rivers who had been a Pro Bowl, potentially, I don't think so, but potentially a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh, he is.
If blind look at the stats, say he is. If you only watched him play against the Chiefs through his career, he is not a Hall of Fame quarterback. But that's not what this show's about. But they moved on from him, and I mean, I don't know if anybody's been any better than Brissett, honestly. But Carson Wentz, pre-injury, at one point was an MVP candidate. Now you've got Matt Ryan, who has won an MVP. So you think he can lead this Colts team to a run for the playoffs?
I think the Colts definitely can still win their division. I'm not sold on Jacksonville, Houston. I don't think Tennessee is going to be great this year.
A weak division is...
That division is wide open. We could see a team with a losing record win that division potentially.
So let's talk, what else do they have? They have a quarterback who's won an MVP, played in a Super Bowl, put up Hall of Fame stats. Mm-hmm. Statistically, Matt Ryan's a Hall of Fame quarterback, or he's on his way to it.
Yep.
And so they've got that. Then they've got one of the top 3 running backs in the league. They've got the best guard in the league, potentially. Mm-hmm. They have a stud at middle linebacker. Mm-hmm. What else am I missing here? What do the Colts have personnel-wise that should scare a Chiefs fan?
Those first 3 guys you just rattled off there all have a strong argument as the best position or the best player at their position in all of football. Jonathan Taylor was the best running back in the league last year and has looked good so far. Quentin Nelson, I think, is pretty undisputed he's a Hall of Famer already. He's through 6-7 years, he's been the best guard since he got in the league. And then Shaq Leonard is... last year, he was definitely the best linebacker in football. He has not played yet. This will be his first game. I'm pretty sure he'll be out there.
Did you get the first name right? Leonard?
It's It was Darius Leonard.
Okay.
And then this offseason, he has asked that he is now Shaquille. It's his birth name.
Works for me. I didn't know, and I thought you'd made a mistake. Okay.
Right.
So Darius Shaquille Leonard is a stud, and
very good.
You got to worry about him. What about...
And then DeForest Buckner, who Chiefs fans should know well because he was in that Super Bowl victory for the 49ers. Actually, on that 3rd and 15 Wasp play, he was the guy just all over Mahomes as he was releasing that ball. Very good player. One of the best pass rushers from the interior in the entire league.
So we've done our best to make a case that the Colts are not as bad as they look. That being said, when you look at the Chiefs' schedule, Kansas City plays all the good teams, and they play several of them twice. We've got the Bucs and the Bills coming up. It is a murderer's row of a schedule, and if you go through and circle games that are like, you have to win this one because you have a tougher one coming up, you have to beat the Colts. And I think the chances of losing to the Colts are slim and none.
I think they're low. I think ultimately the Chiefs' talent will and has to win out. They have a better team. And again, I don't think the Colts have a bad roster. On paper, they absolutely should be competing for the top of the conference. It's just the quarterback and all the organizational questions, and we don't know how stable it is there, but like they've got Stephon Gilmore, who just a few years ago was the defensive player of the year, and Kwity Paye is a young, promising edge rusher, and then they traded for Yannick Ngakoue, who Chiefs fans might know well because he played for the Raiders. So it's a good roster, it really is, but they have not been successful to this point. So
now let's look at the Kansas City team, which we all know a lot better, and right now they have been what we thought they would be.
Yes,
they've been better on defense. And offensively, they've seemed about the same as last year. I mean, it does not feel like there's a big chasm in the offense from Tyreek. He's a fantastic football player, but I don't think he's going to stop us from scoring points.
And what it feels like in terms of talking about the offense is it feels like it's exactly what Mahomes says, is that they obviously have a lot of work to do. It's a young season. These guys have barely played together. But there is a lot of reason for optimism offensively.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better.
I don't have any concerns about the Chiefs' offense. My only real concern going into this game is the suspension of Willie Gay. And he's been phenomenal for the team. I don't think he should break vacuum cleaners. I'm not going to make any other jokes other than that one, which was pretty thinly veiled, but domestic violence is a serious thing. We don't want to make light of it. I'm looking forward to him being back. Now, the question is, who's going to play his snaps?
So, Andy Reid said that it would be Darius Harris filling in there, which was a bit of a surprise. A lot of people thought it would be Elijah Lee. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think Darius Harris has earned through years of being on the practice squad and learning the scheme and maturing as a player the opportunity, and he had a good preseason.
A lot of guys look good in the preseason, but I was impressed by him. I was just casually watching and said, man, who is this 47? And he was flying all over the place.
And he had that 3-play stretch against the Packers in that 3rd preseason game where he made all 3 tackles and forced a 3-and-out by himself. Again, it's preseason football, but he made the plays, So, but the long term, the answer to that of who is filling in for Willie Gay is not an easy question, because Willie Gay's speed kind of has been the defining change for the defense this year in that it's so noticeable. He's everywhere.
Nothing is more important than speed on defense.
And the Chiefs do not win that game against the Chargers without Willie Gay. I think that's I can say that confidently.
And we've got 2 very tough games against the Bucs and the Bills coming up during the stretch he will miss, and then the other game I believe is the Raiders. So It's unfortunate for the team. Hopefully he doesn't have any more issues like this. And we're still without McDuffie. But I just don't have that many concerns, honestly.
Yeah, and then so again, I'm really curious about how they choose to go about this Willie Gay thing, because I think Leo Chenal will mostly play the exact same role. I don't think they're going to ask him to do anything more. Elijah Lee may see an uptick in snaps. I don't know how significant. I think we may see more Brian Cook, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. He's
anything to keep his hands off of people's face masks during special teams plays.
And
other than that, I'm high on Brian Cook.
I didn't know this. I just heard it a few days ago. Willie Gay, the Chiefs have been playing in nickel a lot more than they have in previous years with Spags this season so far. And Willie Gay, I think it was like 20 plus times so far through 2 games, had lined up as a true slot defender. As in over either a tight end or a receiver and not in the box. So it's a difficult change schematically to say you have a linebacker who you were trusting to cover receivers and tight ends, and now he's unavailable.
And then you said there was a roster move where they added a defensive end?
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but it's a defensive end I'd never heard of who was claimed off of the Rams practice squad. So that means he will have to be on the Chiefs roster for the next 3 weeks.
Yep. So they see something there, but that doesn't mean active on game day. It just means on the 53.
Right. And I guess, which I'm not overly concerned at this point, but Mike Dana did not practice today with a calf injury, so maybe that's part of it. We'll see. We'll have to wait and find out.
Trying to think if there was anything else about this game. I mean, it looks like one of those games where you go as a championship caliber team and you take care of business. Mm-hmm. If they lose this with the schedule in front of them, you start to worry a lot more about, trying to lock up this division. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think this will be a really good test for the Chiefs' offensive line, who we all know the talent is there, and they've played really well last year. It's been a rocky start for them, especially in the first half of that Chargers game. We were getting free guys to the quarterback, miscommunications. I think I saw one clip. I think it was Creed was literally spun around and got lost on a play, and he's a very good player. That doesn't happen very often, but it's a chance against a good front to continue gelling and to continue moving in the right direction, because like I said, if there's any way that the Chiefs lose this game, I think it would be by getting dominated up front.
And there's really, the way they lose it is penalties and turnovers, because that's how you lose every game. Mm-hmm. But it's cliche to talk about that, so we won't do it.
Right.
Before we wrap the show up, would you like to make fun of the Raiders or Broncos any today?
There's nothing new on either of those fronts, unfortunately.
I just take a lot of enjoyment whenever those teams are not good. And so far, the Raiders look average.
Unimpressive.
And the Broncos look terrible. I almost called a timeout a minute ago during the podcast just because I don't know when to call them. Delay a game. We could kick a field goal. The Broncos have no idea what they're doing.
What I loved most about the Broncos, that last week, the week after they tried a 64-yard field goal in Seattle, it slipped by me during the game. They had a 54-yard field goal that they were going to attempt to tie it, and then they took the delay of game, and it backed it up to 59 in Mile High, and they were like, no, punt it, gotta punt now. Like 59 is a makeable kick, especially in Denver.
One missed field goal has made us completely rethink our strategy on special teams this season. So last thing, we've got the San Diego Chargers. Do you remember who they play this week? Seems like it was an interesting matchup. Because for me, and this sounds like a sad, pathetic existence, but I think it's how most football fans operate, I get as much enjoyment out of rooting against our teams that are are in the running.
Speaking of divisional matchups and big games, the 0-2 Raiders play the 0-2 Titans this week. The loser of that game is likely done.
Which is what you always want to be saying in week 3.
Exactly.
So we'll be rooting for the Titans there because I can watch any NFL football game and enjoy it. But
if the Raiders lose, I mean, that's...
If I can find some like third degree possible tie-breaking scenario that it helps Kansas City, it just puts a little extra spice in the game.
It's never too early to start looking at
Tiebreakers. I'm looking at tiebreaker scenarios in the preseason. So I just saw it. The Chargers play the Jaguars, which those two teams are identical in record at 1-1. But we're likely to see a Chargers win there. And like I'm predicting the Broncos to lose to the 49ers.
That's a game where Nathaniel Hackett is going to get outcoached. Which has been every game so far.
And Russell Wilson will be out Garoppolo'd, and that will be a 49ers win. And then I'm going to predict that the Raiders beat the Titans.
I would think so.
Even though I'll be rooting for the other scenario.
In the theme of not calling things by their proper name, I think Nathaniel Hackett does not deserve the annual. He is Nate Hackett from now on.
Natty. We'll call him Natty. Okay. So this has been a fun episode. I predict a Kansas City win. I'm going to say they are up by 21 points at some point during this game. Now, you may see a final score that is 7 points after an onside or something, but I predict a comfortable Kansas City victory. 31. I'm going 31-17.
I think midway through the second quarter, the Chiefs are ready to put this thing into coast. But that's why you got to play the game.
And that's why we'll have a follow-up... And that is why we'll have a follow-up episode where I make fun of him for being wrong. Or maybe we won't even do a follow-up if I'm wrong. I appreciate you taking time to watch, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right.